Welcome to that last piece of that life cycle, that DevOps life cycle, which is monitor and learn. Once we've gone to production, we're not done yet. We still need to get back in, learn from what we pushed out to influence what we're going to develop next. So in monitor and learn, we're going to do a few things. At the slide, you'll see we're going to monitor, we're going to get to feedback, and that's going to use to plan the next iteration. Again, at the slide, there's a couple ways we do this, some ways to learn. One is testing in production. In Azure, this is easy. Everywhere else on premises, this can be really difficult, which is to take two production sites, have 90% of your traffic go to your old production site, 10% go to the new production site, and that blue-green deployment type thing. You can also use telemetry by looking at the actual app running in production. This is a very powerful way, and we'll be demonstrating this. The other is fault injection. This is where you go in and physically mess with your infrastructure, your code, tear things down, popularized by the Chaos Monkey that would go through and shut down machines for a very popular video streaming service out there. You might find that you don't want to do Chaos Monkey in production quite yet. You might want to wait a little bit before you do that, but it's often a good idea to understand your failure modes of your application in your test environment, running it at load when that load test, which you showed earlier, is running against that. Go in and periodically kill things and see how your application responds. But for our telemetry demo, which we're getting to, we're going to step away from the Parts Unlimited app now and look at an actual App Insights in production. Off to you.
Thank you, Steve. So if you go down to my browser again, I've brought up my blog. Now this is hosted in Azure, of course.
Of course.
And it's a very simple, very lightweight ASP.NET application. And the blog posts themselves are stored in Azure Blob Storage, because that's a great place to store documents. And so I wanted to get some monitoring and some telemetry for my site, and I decided to use Application Insights. So let me flip over to my Azure portal login. And this dashboard that I'm showing you here is my go-to to look at telemetry for my site. Now, I want to stress the way that I added this to my project was I right-clicked, said Add Application Insights Telemetry, told Azure where to put the events that get logged, and that's it. I didn't have to change my code. I didn't have to do a lot of other things. I didn't have to change my logging mechanism or anything like that. Really just right-click Add and look at the amazing telemetry I get. So
I think it's why we get such popular feedback from our customers, is it's just that easy, and you can customize it and everything else. You can start here, but then you can go crazy.
Yeah, so I like showing this because this is where the starting point is, right? There's definitely a lot of complexities here and a lot of advanced techniques which we can't cover in this particular video. I could take 3 or 4 hours just on Apple Insights alone. But we can see here, if I look at the timeline, I can see my server response rates, page load times. You can see I have this massive spike. Every now and then I seem to get a page that takes a really long time to load. I have so many thousand server requests per hour. I have failed requests that I can track. Over here I can track my usage. Now I did have to add 5 lines of JavaScript, which App Insights gave to me. In fact, I don't even think you need to add that anymore. If you right-click an ASP.NET project, the wizard is smart enough to inject this usage JavaScript in for you, but this could be running in a Node application, or it could be running in pretty much any web application that you want to can collect.
It could be running on your desktop application, a phone, a desk. It can run anywhere. It's just, it's got to make a REST call.
Right. So here I can see users, I can see sessions, I can see page views. If I click on any of those charts, I get into a drill in, so I can see how many users or how many sessions that I have in this particular time period, and I can go and dig in. Now what I did want to show was this application map. Now the application map, again, I didn't have to code this up. This is what Application Insights has detected. It's detected that from my server, which is the Azure Web App, I have a dependency on an Azure table and an Azure blob, and it's monitoring what is the performance like of that dependency. Now if I was calling to an Azure database, that would be another dependency here that we could track and monitor. This availability on the left-hand side here, I went to the App Insights blade inside of Azure and set up an availability test, very similar to the cloud performance test that we saw earlier. This just does a call to a URL, just the root URL of my site, make sure it gets a 200 back. But I've set up a notification on that, that if for some reason for more than 3 regions, more than 3 data centers across the world in Azure fail this test for more than 5 minutes, I want an email. So I'm proactively monitoring the availability of my app, again, without changing the code inside of my app, which is phenomenal. And you can see I've got some more dependency graphs down here. I've also created a chart for the slowest pages. All right, I might want to monitor what are the slow pages in my application. All right. So this gives me a good overview of what's going on in my application. Another thing I may want to do is I want to click this little icon here which says Open Chart in Analytics. So Analytics, so the Analytics lets me go and run data queries, data mining queries against the data that's coming through from my telemetry. On the left-hand side here, you can see I have traces, custom events, page views. These are all the categories of events that have come through. Now, for custom events, you're going to need to change some code. There's a NuGet package that you can add in, and there's an SDK that you can push up custom events. Now, I love this because the events we want to push up, I'm showing you events here that are very technical, pages per second and sessions, and these things are important to me as a developer. For the business, they might not really care how many sessions we have or how fast the response time is. As long as the site looks good to them, they're good. But what about if they want to track some user telemetry or some business telemetry?
Dollars added to shopping cart per hour.
Right. Categories of products that are popular for different dates. Right. Black
How much
Friday.
money you're making every minute.
Absolutely. So these custom events can be thrown up through Application Insights and collected there, and then this query language allows you to go and mine that data and actually find patterns or find things of interest that are going to then feed back into that backlog. So we may want to know which sections of our website are popular, which functions in our web application are used a lot, which product lines are very popular, and that's going to inform what the team works on in the next iteration. So just to give you a flavor of this, here you see I'm querying requests. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So I'm querying the requests, and this language is amazing. It's very English-like, where timestamp is greater than that and less than that. I can also do things like ago. So let's say where timestamp is greater than ago 24 hours, right? And if we go and run that, we are now getting all the telemetry that's older than 24 hours. And I didn't have to do any, I love this time functionality is great because I hate dealing with timestamps, right? And then we can bucket this, so we're summarizing the average duration, and we're doing a bin operation to timestamp over 30 minutes. Maybe we want to do it in 60-minute buckets. So we'll just change the size of the bucket and our chart update. So this gives you just a really small idea of what you can do in this query language to go and mine and visualize the telemetry that's coming out. The other thing I wanted to show is that we can export this into Power BI, right? Another offering from Azure where we can then feed the telemetry sources that we have here into Power BI, and our business users can go into Power BI and slice and dice and make charts and do all the amazing stuff you can do in Power BI right over the telemetry that's coming straight out of our applications. I love Application Insights.
Especially when it's business telemetry.
Right.
And once it's there, right, in Power BI, we can probably drop that into blob storage or table storage, and then we can go in and we can run analytics on it, use Azure ML and all these other pieces to give us the insight necessary to understand how we can feed this information back to the business to make decisions on what we should do next. And that's one of the absolutely critical pieces. More to show on App Insights?
I think I'm done for this discussion. I wish I had hours to talk about App Insights, but I think for this gives you a slight flavor, a tip of the iceberg feel for what you can accomplish with Application Insights.
So we've gone through the 4 stages, right? We've planned things out. We've gone through the development and test phase. We've released, and we've gone back and wrapped that back together and looked in production at how we can get informed for changes that we might be able to make next. And again, that life cycle, I encourage you to shrink it down, shorter and shorter and shorter, faster and faster cycles. Why do you do that? Because you get the really fast feedback cadence to know whether you're building the right thing, you're building it correctly, and you're able to design what to do to move forward next. And that is all part of this mind shift to cloud first that you get when you use things like Azure, VSTS, and all of this associated tooling. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in future courses.